Pregame.com.
January 2nd, bowl action. We've got Nebraska, South Carolina. I'm Marco D'Angelo, and I'm joined with Scott Spreitzer. Scott, this is a bowl game. This one's kind of intriguing to me. I'll be honest with you. I've been back and forth with this one for the last week, 10 days, looking at it. And South Carolina, to me, is one of those teams. They're hard to gauge because they don't win flashy. They get the job done, but then you look at it, and it's one of those 14-10 games, and it's like, well, are they defense that good? Is the offense that bad? But they got a 10-2 record. But then the asterisk to that is 10-2, you play in a Southeastern Conference. That's great. But they avoided the two big guns in the conference this year. So what do you make of this team?
And it's not exactly, they don't get the job done the way the Florida Gators did when the old ball coach Spurrier was in Gainesville. In fact, I remember the last time Steve Spurrier met up with Nebraska, he's probably tried to forget it, but it was a 62-24 shellacking in the 96 bowl game, the championship game. Back in the Lawrence Phillips, Tommy Frazier years, Lawrence Phillips still doing time, by the way, not running as fast or as far. But as far as this game, the line's 2.5, and I was really bummed when Carl Pelini, the Nebraska defensive coordinator, took the job as head coach at Florida Atlantic a few weeks ago. Not bummed because I'm a fan or anything like that, but bummed because I had him figured out. This guy, the kind of defense that Carl Pelini had employed at Nebraska needed superstar athletes. It's almost a pro style of attack in which the safeties a lot of times are helping out the corners more than you're going to see mostly throughout the college football game. You won't see teams with their safeties helping out so much as they do, which puts the onus of the pass rush on the down linemen and on the linebackers. And the bottom line is Nebraska's had a horrible pass rush this year. The down linemen are not getting it done. They don't have Ndamukong Suh from a couple of years ago. Their other kid up front was injured earlier this season, Jared Crick, and he never really had it going, and then he gets injured midseason. He's missed the rest of the year. The linebacker core is okay, but again, they're not getting what they need out of this defensive line in a Carl Pelini type of attack. So what this means is that when this team goes up against mobile dual threat quarterbacks, they're really going to struggle because a lot of times when you watch them, you'll see their safeties turning their back towards the line of scrimmage to help out with the corners. And if those defensive linemen aren't quick enough or as athletic enough to be able to get after that quarterback and contain him in the pocket or maybe to 2 or 3 yard gains, they have huge games against Nebraska. When they go up against a stationary quarterback, Nebraska dominates. We've seen it all year both ways, and I've gone against him and with him, depending a lot of times on just who the opposing quarterback is. Had my game of the year on Michigan this year when they hosted Nebraska because of Denard Robinson, the dual threat. If you look at Russell Wilson, he didn't run for a lot of yardage against Nebraska. He didn't try to, but there was always that threat that he could pull the ball down and take off. They killed Nebraska in the second half of that game. A great example that I like to use are two great examples. When Nebraska hosted Northwestern, they started out going up against Dan Persa. Dan Persa is not as mobile as he used to be. Nebraska was finding some success. He gets injured quite early in the game. They bring in the second stringer who's a mobile dual threat quarterback. He runs the ball 17 times. They upset Nebraska in Lincoln, changed the whole aspect of the game. And the final example that I'd like to make about this is when they went up against the Ohio State Buckeyes. It was third quarter. It was in Lincoln. Nebraska's down 27-6 to the Buckeyes with Braxton Miller running all over the place. Miller gets injured midway through the third quarter. They don't score a single point after that with Blauserman in the game. And Nebraska, meanwhile, outscores them 28-0 and wins the football game. They shut down Michigan State. Again, stationary quarterback. They shut down the Iowa Hawkeyes. We had Nebraska there. Again, pretty much a stationary quarterback. Now they got to go up against Connor Shaw, and I think that's going to be the difference in this game.
Well, this is a game, like I said, I've looked at it in South Carolina is one of those teams where you look at them and the offense has struggled at times. And it's hard when you think of, Steve Spurrier teams, you never think of a struggling offense because they just, lights out all the time. But this team got it going on the ground late in the year. And what I like is they finished up the season, the last 5 games of the season, they ran for 200 or more yards 4 of the last 5 games. And I've said it 100 times. You take a average quarterback and give him a running game, he becomes a good quarterback. You take a good quarterback and give him a running game, he becomes a great quarterback. And this quarterback for South Carolina is much better when the running game is working, and then the defenses have to play them straight up. I've been back and forth. I've got a weak vote right now to South Carolina. I don't know if this is going to be a play that makes my premium card on January 2nd. I keep wanting to say New Year's Day because we're so these are the games that would be playing on New Year's Day. But you've got the play. You're going with South Carolina here?
Yeah, I'm going to go with South Carolina. I think it's going to be, I think the total's about right where it should be as far as even the final score, not just on public perception, but I think you're going to see like a 27-20 type of game in favor of South Carolina. A couple of interesting notes, or injury notes, I should say, on Nebraska. Rex Burkhead, their top running back, is expected to play. He's had a little ankle issue since the final regular season game. And he's not the kind of running back. See, Nebraska's offense, they've got Taylor Martinez, who improved this year and is getting better as a passer, albeit baby steps.
Yeah.
But the bottom line is he's not going to face a pass rush. South Carolina's better than Nebraska at rushing the quarterback, but they're still a mid-level, so-so team. The thing is, though, is he really doesn't have that breakaway I-back that you used to call it at Nebraska, who can turn 2nd down and 9 at the 20-yard line into an 80-yard touchdown run all on his own. Burkhead's good, but he's not a breakaway lightning back. He's expected to play. I wouldn't be surprised to see a little bit more out of Amir Abdullah, a young freshman who started getting more reps with Nebraska's offense late in the season. He does have breakaway speed. But the bottom line is, eventually, somewhere along the line here, Taylor Martinez has to throw the football, and his receivers have dropped him when he's thrown him on target too many times this year, and too many times he's missed the receivers. He's got that weird hitch. It's almost like the Charles Barkley golf swing when he's throwing the football. It's as ugly as it gets. So I just think that they don't have exactly the right tools they need in place on offense. If Burkhead had that breakaway speed, I probably wouldn't go against the Nebraska Cornhuskers here, but I just think they're going to struggle because of that and because of the fact that I think South Carolina's Connor Shaw is going to be able to pull the ball down and run with it when he needs to break away from any pressure. And you mentioned the running game getting better for South Carolina. They lost Marcus Lattimore, but Wilds started coming on down the stretch, the running back, and I think he's going to give Nebraska some trouble here.
Well, it should be an interesting ball game. There you have it. Scott's going to go with South Carolina. I can't disagree. Right now, if you put the gun to my head, I would agree with the South Carolina play. But I think it's going to be a tightly contested ball. I don't see either team.
It's not my biggest play by far.
Right. I don't see either team, breaking away. Just their style of play is going to keep both of them in the game. So there you have it. This one's the day after New Year. So we'll wish you a belated Happy New Year. We're actually taping before, obviously, New Year. So hopefully everybody had a good New Year's, partied hard, but, you're got home safe afterwards for sure. So he's Scott Spreitzer. I'm Marco D'Angelo. You can go to the pregame forums. Just go to pregamevideos.com and you can check out all of the videos that we did this week. We had 8 videos in all, college and pro. We talk about all the games in there. We'll put our show notes in there. And if you have any questions, you can jump into that thread, ask us, the pros will drop by. We'll answer your questions for you. And if you have a question on another game, we'll answer it the best way that we can. And as always, thanks for watching. And we'll be back next week, NFL playoff action, and wrap up the last few bowl games. I think there's going to be one big bowl game left.
Yeah, I heard some southern team or something.
Yeah, a couple teams down south. But we'll be talking about that next week. Thanks for watching.